Hey folks, Mark back doing another video here. My first one of 2015. Hadn't done one in a while. Hope you all had a great holiday. I know I did. I went to Dallas, Texas, where I grew up and spent most of my life. And of course, no trip to any city is complete without a trip to some of the record stores and to see what they have to offer. So I visited two. I went to Josey Records, a new store that had opened down there, which I was quite impressed with. And then also Dead Wax Records, which I'd been to before, even done a video about before. A good friend of mine runs the store, Brad, and he has great stock down there. Progressive, post-punk, new wave, dark wave, you know, goth, electronic, progressive rock, dub, reggae, metal, classic rock, whatever you're looking for, he's got it. And usually you'll find stuff there you've either never seen before or have not seen in a long time. So I'm going to start with showing the stuff I got there, and then I'll go through the stuff I got at Josey Records, okay? Again, I just got this stuff in. I had it all mailed to me because I couldn't get it all on the airplane. I had quite a bit already, gifts to bring back home, so I had Brad from Dead Wax send me the records here to Cleveland, and I'm glad that he did. So here's the stuff I got at Dead Wax. Couple things on the Dark Entries label. I don't know how much you people know about Dark Entries records, but they typically find old new wave stuff from the early 80s, late 70s, and reissue it. Mostly it's stuff that either had come out just on limited 7-inch or had come out on cassette only, and they give it a proper vinyl reissue. And these two things are typical of what they put out. Dark Day. This is something called Window by Dark Day, and it's a duo. And guy R.L. Crutchfield used to be in a band called DNA, a no-wave band out of New York. And then he splintered off and did this, Dark Days. Sort of synthesized post-punk kind of thing. Very dark. The other thing I got was a band called Sick, S-I-C. And the album is called Thought Noises. It's actually a compilation of 3 7-inches released by this Belgian new wave band from 79 to 81. And then one side of it includes those singles. The other side includes some demos they recorded around that same time. Good stuff, again, guitar and bass-heavy synth music. It's probably the best way to describe it, with a dark sort of tone to it. If you like DAF and things like that, Joy Division, not too unlike that. Keeping with the Belgian Cold Wave, a Belgian Cold Wave compilation. I haven't even opened this yet. It's called B9, Belgian Cold Wave 1979 to 1983. 20 tracks including Front 242, Marine, The Names, Neon Judgment, Polyphonic Size, Siglo 20, and it's a limited edition of 500. It's a double album put out on the LTM label. So was very curious to get hold of this, and I'm glad I got it. So this band, not a Belgian new wave group. I think this group's from California. They're a really good birdsy, jangly, modern psychedelic band called the Ah La Las, and this is their second album, and the name of it is called Worship the Sun. This came out just recently, and I was looking to get a copy of it on vinyl, and I found one at Dead Wax Records. The Ah La Las. If you get a chance to hear them and you're really into jangly Rickenbacker 12-string type birdsy stuff, right up your alley. And then this is something I've been wanting for a long time. Girls at Our Best, early 80s post-punk outfit. They only did this one album called Pleasure, and I was never able to track the original down. I did find one copy once in England back in 1990, and it was priced way high. So I didn't pick it up and wound up getting it on CD, fell in love with the album, have the 7-inches that came from it, but could never get the album. So Optic Nerve has reissued it on multicolored vinyl. They've made it a double album. They've added all the singles and B-sides to it and put it out on this splatter vinyl. Isn't that nice? Not only that, it comes in a nice gatefold with old press clippings and pictures. And then it comes with a bag, a little bag here. Girls at Our Best Pleasure bag. It's got all kinds of stuff. I haven't opened this yet, so I'll just give you a glimpse. Oh, it's got little cardboard postcards, not cardboard, just postcards of the singles. It's got some stickers. It's got all kinds of some press clippings and poster and wow, just all kinds of stuff. I don't know how to really describe these people. If you like Delta 5 and the Modettes, Gang of Four from the early 80s, just that post-punk choppy guitar, but highly melodic, really tuneful stuff. Girls at Her Best. More than glad to get a copy of that album finally on vinyl. All right, some of the, now that's all I got from Dead Wax. So the rest of it's used stuff that I got from Josey Records. And again, as I mentioned in the Jerry Records video, I don't know if you watched my video on Jerry's Records, but, you know, when I go to places that have a large used catalog, you know, I tend to not look for the new releases because I know I can find those in other stores. I tend to want to go through their used bins and see what kind of strange oddities pop up. And boy, I found a few at Good Records, and kind of a little grail for me as well. So this one, I'll go through the 12 inches first. This one by the Laurels, I don't know anything about them, but they are on Happy Records from the UK. They put this 12-inch out. It's called Zoom, Take the Test. And it's produced by John Rivers, who had done work with Felt and also Tones on Tail. So I thought, if he produced them, maybe he did some wonders for the Laurels. So we'll check that out. This one was $3 and was very surprised to find it. It's one of two 12 inches. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. One of two 12 inches put out by this UK synth duo called Sayona Dancing. And you may have heard of them because the lead singer is this guy. I don't know if you recognize him, but he is Ricky Gervais, who later went on to fame as David Brent in the UK version of The Office. So he was in a synth duo called Sayona Dancing, produced by Phil Thornley of The Cure, who've done work with The Cure. This came out on London in '83, very pretty synthy kind of stuff. They have another 12-inch called Bitter Heart, which I have, but never did have this one, More to Lose, Sayona Dancing. If you like Tears for Fears, Blamage, that kind of stuff from '83, Sayona Dancing. And Ricky Gervais, they obviously didn't know what this was. This one by Vogue. I don't know anything about Vogue, but it's a US group who put this 12-inch out in 1980. And it came in this wraparound flap sleeve. Most of these records were like $1, $2 each, so I thought I'll take a chance on them. So Vogue, look at this typeset from 1980. It's called Free to Be Me. Here's one that's still in the shrink wrap, Polyrock. I believe a New York band. I think they're from New York. They might, yeah, recorded in New York City and produced by Philip Glass. Just new wave band from the early 80s. Very synth driven out of New York. I had a 12-inch by them called Romantic Me, and that was all I ever had by them. So I'm curious to hear how the rest of this album is. It's called Changing Hearts. I don't know anything about this group. They're called Emotional Parade, and the album is called Living Dolls. I don't know anything about it. They are from West Los Angeles, I believe, and it's a 4-track EP, and there they are. You can see them on the back cover. Again, this is in the shrink wrap, came out in 1986. Who knows? Kind of curious to hear it. Here's an album I already had a UK copy of. This is the US version of the Railway Children, really good Manchester band from the late 1980s. This is their debut album, and the US edition is mixed differently than the UK version. I had this on cassette and wore it out back in the late 80s. Bought the import, realized it was a different mix, and also it had less tracks. This appends singles and B-sides from that time period. Railway Children. So I found a nice US edition of that on Virgin. Here's one by Phil Seymour, a guy that I never really knew anything about, and then a friend of mine told me about him, because I had been playing the Bobby Fuller 4 song Let Her Dance, and a friend of mine says, oh, Phil Seymour did a version of that. I'm like, who's Phil Seymour? So he went and showed me a video and loved it. So found his album. This came out in 1980. Don't know anything about this guy, but thought, well, you know, looks fun. Here's one from the Bell Stars called 80s Romance. Came out in 1982. I like the Bell Stars. This is out on the Stiff label. Don't know anything about it. I've never heard it. So figured we'd add it to the collection. Here's one by Kate Garner. I have the 7-inch of this, so it was nice to get the 12-inch to it. Love Me Like a Rocket. Kate Garner was one half of the UK duo Hazy Fantasy. She later went on to become quite a successful photographer in her own right, doing loads of high-profile photography for music artists and others as well. Look her up if you want to find more about her. Kate Garner. Here's one from Love and Money. These guys had a little bit of success over here in America on the college circuit and a little more success over in the UK in the late 80s. And they had previously been members of another band called Friends Again. This is one called Dear John. Don't know anything about it, but I figure, well, we'll check it out. Here's one I don't know anything about. Gems. The group is called Gems. It's called Young Man's Dream. Who knows? It's a UK import 12-inch. And it is on Silent Records, produced by Steve Barnacle. So, who knows? Here's another fun 12-inch. Who knows what this is all about? Too Brave. It was $1. Might as well get it. It looks like a fun dance 12-inch. It's on the London record label. And funny enough, produced by part-time Cure guy Phil Thornley. I think that was what tipped the scale on it for me. Here's a group out of Australia called Boxcar. And I'd seen this around in the 80s, and somebody on a blog mentioned that this was one of their favorite records, and the blog featured a bunch of records I liked. So I thought, next time you see Boxcar, pick that up. So I did. This 12-inch is called Gas Stop, Who Do You Think You Are? And it came out over here on the Arista label, and then also on the Volition label, which is the label that has Severed Heads. So, interested to hear this. Probably some good industrial dance music circa 1990. And lastly, the Hawaiian Pups, Split Second Precision. I've seen this EP around for years and years and years and years, so I thought I'd bite the bullet and see what it's all about. This came out, I believe, in 1983 on the Portrait label. So, and I'll run through real quickly. Got a few 7-inches while I was down at Josey Records. These were all $1 each, so I thought, why not? Hamby and the Dance. This is a Liverpool act, which at one point in their ranks featured Paul Rutherford. He had been in the group at one point from Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Hamby and the Dance only put out an album and a few singles in the early 1980s, so curious to hear this. Came out on Virgin. I'm a huge Kissing the Pink fan, British band, synthy group from the mid-80s. This came from their first album, Naked. It's called Love Lasts Forever. I never had a single to it, so I thought I'd pick this up. The B-side is Underage Instrumental Version. Don't know anything about this one. It's called Headline Carolina. There it is. This is on the Virgin label. There you go. And it just looked good. You know, anything on Virgin Records from the early 1980s from the UK, I'll pretty much pick up. Here's another one on Virgin from the early 80s. This is by Nick Garvey, and it's called Take a Look Over My Shoulder. I don't know anything about it. I've heard his name before, but I don't know much about him. So maybe you do. If you do, leave a comment. Let me know more. Here's a group called Paparazzi. It's called Don't Stay All Night. Look at these haircuts. How could I not buy that? And it's produced by Teresa Bazar. She had been in a duo called Dollar over in the UK in the early 1980s. So I'm expecting slick pop, very synthy stuff is what I'm expecting and hoping for. We'll see. There's one from Martin Ansel. It's called I'll Be in the Jungle. And I don't know, again, I don't know much about him. 1983 on EMI Records, produced by Tony Mansfield, one of my favorite producers from the era, who used to be in New Music, later produced Naked Eyes, B-52s, Vicious Pink, Aha, loads of other stuff. Scottish guy, James King. Here's one called Back from the Dead. Again, this came out on Virgin in 1981. Don't know a lot about it, although Stephen Daly of Orange Juice is on drums. So, good sign there. Nocera. This is called Let's Go. She had a hit with a song called Summertime in the late 1980s. Kind of a Miami freestyle type dance club hit. So this is obviously from the same era, and it's called Let's Go. We'll see how it is. One from Jacko. Don't know much about him, but this came out on the Chiswick label in 1983, I think. Or maybe 82. Let's see. 82. So we'll see how that is. Jacko. Here's a group, another band. I've seen their records around forever. The Tapes. They have an album called Party, which I've never gotten around to picking up, but I've heard good things about. But I did see a single called Blue Thighs, so we'll see how that is. Again, I'm expecting new wavy type post-punk from the early 80s. Here's one I have digitally, but never had it on vinyl. White Door, a UK band, and a synth pop song called Love Breakdown. Kind of dated for 1983, but I love it. It's just got a good hook. Dancey pop from 1983, I believe is the year. And Love Breakdown by White Door. I don't know anything about this. It's Greg Van Dyke. It's called Dr. Rain. I got it because it's on the Korova label, the label that has Echo and the Bunnymen, The Sound, and Strawberry Switchblade. Figure, well, if it's good enough for them, good enough for me. Way of the West. Here's one called Drum, another UK dance, new wave-ish kind of group from the early 80s. Way of the West. This one I don't know anything about. SVT comes in kind of a funny little sleeve here. It's a US release out of San Francisco, California. It's called Heart of Stone, and it's from 1979. Looks like good power pop. SVT. If you know anything about them, leave me a comment. Let me know. A few more to go through here. Kevin Coyne, a guy I don't know a lot about either, but I've heard the name a lot. Maybe some of you know. I have a feeling he used to be in a 70s group, but I can't tell you which one. But this is a solo record he put out called I'll Go Too. And again, it's on Virgin from the early 1980s and on green vinyl. There it is, Kevin Coyne. Oh, here are a couple other things I got at Dead Wax, kind of mixed in with these 7 inches. Got a Pylon reissue single. This came out on the DFA label. It's called Cover. It's a remix of it. Pylon were an early 80s Atlanta band. Very much of the Delta 5, Bush Tetras, that kind of disco punk funk sound of the early 1980s. Good stuff, Pylon. And then Machinations, or Machinations. This is a band out of Australia. They had a song called Pressure Sway that I liked a lot. This is another single they did called Average Inadequacy from the early 1980s. Thought I'd pick that one up. Searchers, band from the 60s, one of my favorite groups from the 60s. Needles and Pins, When You Walk in the Room. Well, they continued on through the 1970s and put out an album on Sire in the late 1970s. This comes from it. It's called Another Night. Thought I'd check that one out. Didn't ever listen to their 70s stuff, really. Here's a group I don't know anything about called Cry, and it's called Sympathy. And yeah, it's on Virgin from 1978. I don't know if any of you guys know anything about it, but there it is. It's called Cry, is the name of the group. It says produced by Tony Wilson. I don't know if that's Tony Wilson Factory Records or not. Could be wrong. Here's yet another one on Virgin from the early 1980s, or actually 1979. This is by 90 Degrees, and it's called No Doctor. There's the record. And the only thing I can see here is it's produced by Eddie Grant, who later did Electric Avenue, so I bet it has kind of a Caribbean reggae-fied kind of feel to it. The Spizzles. This is a Spiz, who used to be Spiz Oil and Spiz Energy, and Atletico Spiz 80. Well, one of his other incarnations was the Spizzles. So this is a single he put out called Risk in 1981. Interested to see how that is. Afraid of Mice, another early 80s UK band, new wave-ish kind of group. This is called Transparence. Afraid of Mice. 2 more. Jessie Lynn Dean. This is called Do It. Know absolutely nothing about her, but it's UK 45 from the early 1980s. So for $1, we'll see how it is. And then last but not least, The Planets. This is called Iron for the Iron. The Planets. Can't tell you much about them at all, except they're on the Rialto label, which is a subsidiary of Pi Records. There it is. And it came out in 1979. That's what I got. So lots of interesting things, a lot of things I don't know, but that's part of the fun of record shopping for me, is just kind of flipping through things and wondering what you got And you know, as long as the price is cheap enough, take a few chances and see what you come up with. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good 2015 so far. I mean, we're only 6 or 7 days into it, so as good as it could be. And I'll post another video soon of some random things I bought during the year 2014 that I need to file away. There's a lot of things I haven't shown and just hadn't gotten around to doing a video about over the last couple months. So let me gather some of that stuff together, get a video up here in another couple weeks. In the meantime, keep the vinyl spinning, and I'll see you all soon.